far-fetched as it may seem. In fact, both local San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
All right. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. I'd like to welcome everybody in YouTube right now. Thank you so much for coming over to the live tonight. And I've got it going over here on my right side, as you see me all looking down, on live right now for Facebook. And I just want to make sure that, I'm streaming to both platforms to try to accommodate both my viewers on Facebook and YouTube. So I thank you so much for everybody jumping in. Hey, everybody jumping in YouTube right now. How's everybody doing this evening? If y'all got questions on YouTube, type them in the chat and I'll get to them and I'll answer them. I've got my lovely wife, which is my assistant behind me over here, and she is monitoring my Facebook chat because I don't have a giant tablet to put in front of me and use my phone at the same time to, answer all the questions. So if you got a question on Facebook, ask away and I will get to it. If you got a question on YouTube, ask away and I'll get to it. I've got my chat up over here. Richard C, man, what's going on? Q Warren 14, hey man. Hey, for everybody that doesn't know, Q Warren, he is my audio studio electronics guy that helps me set up all the time for all this wonderful streaming software I have. So if anybody has any questions about streaming software, cameras, web cameras, microphones, hit me up and I would love to get you in touch with this guy because he is a wizard at this stuff. So with that being said, I hope everybody's doing good. Welcome in Facebook, everybody. I've got everybody going on. I've got YouTube and Facebook going at the same time. So, hey, what's going on, everybody on Facebook? If you got a question, ask away. I've got somebody monitoring my Facebook for me, which is my wife, like I said. So tonight, what we're going to talk about on the first Average Fisherman Live, and I think it's very unique that I do the live this evening because I found out this is my 1-year anniversary for my YouTube page, my 1-year anniversary for my Facebook page that all of you support me so much on Facebook. It was actually back in May was my 1 year. So with that being said, it's my 1-year anniversary for YouTube. So I just thought it was super awesome to do a live stream tonight. That looks good right there. Thank you. So tonight what we're going to talk about is we got a plethora of things. We're going to talk about how to take care of your fish during the summer. I'm going to give you some live little tips and tricks. I'm going to give you some hacks. I'm going to give some stuff to keep your fish alive when it's just stinking hot as balls out. I mean, let's just be honest. It's just scorching out there in the world right now. I don't care where you live. I don't care if you live up in Colorado. I mean, AC sales are going through the roof right now in Colorado trying to keep everybody cool. So we're going to talk about fish care. I'm going to give you tips and tricks. I am also going to talk about summertime baits. We all know if you're out there fishing right now. Some of our wonderful pro staff guys, which I see a good handful of them in my Facebook over here to the right. Guys, I thank you all so much for tuning in. What's up, Michael? What's up, KJ? You know, these are all wonderful guys that Rick and I have worked really hard to get on Old 18 Pro staff to get out there and, you know, put these amazing rods in people's hands. So which brings me to my next point. Gotta do it. Some people hate it, some people like it, but I'm going to thank every one of my sponsors right now in the beginning of this chat, beginning of this live stream. And, you know, if y'all like what I'm saying when we start getting into the hot and heavy stuff, please, if you could, just start smashing those thumbs up so I can see them. And if you got a question, drop it and I will get to them. So the first thing I want to do is I want to thank all these guys right here behind me. And one of them that I'm wearing right now. So I want to give a big shout out to Old 18 Outfitters. For everybody that doesn't know, they're American-made rods, all here in America. They have an amazing crew over there at Old 18. They're partially veteran-owned. And with that being said, I promise you all, I challenge you all to go out and find a rod at that price point that's got a North Fork blank in their suppressor series and that's got Sea Guide eyes and the wind grip. Guys, they've got an amazing lineup. And right now, if you go over there, they're running a big sale. They're offering 25% off on all of their rods right now. They got Christmas and July sale going on. So I want you all to know that all of us wonderful boat crew and pro staff guys on there, they are offering, you know, typically what we can do is we offer you guys 20% off with our code. Okay, so we all have codes. Mine's Marler C for Old 18. And, you know, all of our pro staff guys that I've got in here watching right now and stuff of that nature. Sorry, I had to knock my cat off. That does seem rude, but she is jumping over everything. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much to Old 18 Outfitters for everything. And I want to give a big shout out to Cross Baits. Oh, and Michael typed in the chat right in there. Don't forget the clearance rods and hollow point. Thank you so much, Michael. See, this, man, I told y'all, we got wonderful pro staff for Old 18. On top of the Old 18 sale going out where you get 25% off everything right now, they've got their hollow points on sale. So if you click on the clearance section on the rods, they've got Old 18 rods, which are the Ascent rods now. They are actually the hollow points. That's what they've gone to. So the hollow points are now the Ascents. So, oh, my wife said the music's in the background going. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So if y'all don't know how the live streaming works, I have separate tabs pulled up and that allows me to play music in the background for everybody. So I just stopped it. My bad. So thank you so much, Michael, for letting me know that. I also want to give a big shout out to Cross Baits. Guys, Cross Baits down here is the next big thing. Danny Cross is really got an amazing lineup of baits. And if you guys haven't checked them out, please go check them out. If you all don't know, they're going to be a big sponsor for the Brandon Belt, fishing series they have down here. And I almost slipped up and said something else, and I'll leave that alone because I'll touch on that in a minute. So the big Brandon Belt Grand Slam that he has ran last year and he's going to run next year. And we got something else that obviously we know has been kicked around that's coming. Crossbaits is an official sponsor for them, as is Old 18. So if you guys go to crossbaitco.com, you guys can go in there and check out all these awesome baits that they have. And if you use Chad 10 at checkout, it's going to save you a ton of money. Okay. Yeah, Joel, I see you, man. I know you're going to come in February, and I'm hoping to put you on Big Fish, and we're gonna talk about that. And I also want to thank Zilla Gear Outdoors, guys. I know right now they're live in my chat, so if you guys got a question about these wonderful jerseys I'm wearing, Zilla Gear Outdoors has stopped by tonight, and they're standing by in my live stream on Facebook and on YouTube side over here. So if you guys got a question, please ask away, because I guarantee they're going to pick it up. These jerseys right here that I'm wearing, this is their Insane Fishing lineup. They also have a Gillzilla lineup, and the Gillzilla lineup is the non-hooded version. If you ever see me on the lake, typically you see Chad like this during the summer. I'm running around out there with the hood up because it's roasting, okay? And I've just got burnt too many times on my face, but I love the hoods. And I'll tell you what's unique about these jerseys that you're not going to find in other name brands, and I'm not going to badmouth any of the other brands out there, but right here on my side, you can see on Facebook right here, you guys got a good view of that. And over here on YouTube, y'all got a good view of that. These are vintage jerseys. They're stinking amazing. I love them. So thank you for all the thumbs up on Facebook going up right now. I appreciate it, guys. So if you guys go to Zilla Gear Outdoors, and you can find all of my links to my sponsors on my YouTube channel, and you can find them in my posts that I tag on Facebook. So I want to give a big shout out to them. They are a big sponsor for me this year. They're great guys, man. Everything that they do a lot of thought goes into it. So go check them out. Solar Bat sunglasses. Guys, I've said this from the beginning with when you see Rick on here with me. Everything that goes on, we really work hard together. And Solar Bat sunglasses, they have an amazing set of sunglasses at affordability. They have a price point it's hard to beat. And I use the H3 ones. I use the blue-green mirror, and I also use the mossback version. So those are my two go-to colors, okay? My mossbacks are every day, like what I'm out doing. And on the water, I use those blue-green tint. I love that blue-green tint. It just highlights everything, and it's amazing. Thank you so much for everybody coming in on Facebook right now. I see everybody loading up. Thank you so much for everybody on YouTube, too. Oh, okay. So I'll get to that in just a second. My wife's catching all of the Facebook stuff in case I miss it. I also want to give a big shout out to more guys, and then we're going to get on with this stream. Platinum Nutrition here in Jasper. They were a big sponsor for me the last 2 years. They're straight across from McDonald's. They sell all kinds of supplements for your drinks, I should say. They sell healthy teas, healthy protein shakes. Go over there and check them out. They're a small business, and I love supporting small businesses. It helps them grow. And last, I want to give a big thanks to Kickin' Bass. If you fish down here on Sam Rayburn, it's a fish attractant that is just unique in itself. And what's really cool is it's also in cross baits. It's built into the baits. So it's really neat to have Kickin' Bass and cross baits working together. So now that we've said that whole spiel, I got to say thanks to my sponsors, because they allow me to live my dream and let me do what I would do. So my wife had said that they're going to supply Warren High School this year with jerseys. So KJ Freeman, thanks for the big shout out. And like he said, and he's talking about Zilla Gear Outdoors helping them out with jerseys. So like I said, guys, they're an amazing set of guys. There's two of them that run that, and they really help out a lot of people. All right, so let me take a drink of my water here. And we're going to talk about the first subject. And if y'all got any questions on Facebook, go ahead and drop them in there. And as they're scrolling along, we'll get to them. If you guys got a question on YouTube, drop it in there. I can see it on my left-hand side, and we're going to get to it. But we're going to talk about the number one thing that I see a ton of anglers just drop the ball on, and it's fish care. We all know how hot it is out there. It's just cooking, okay? And down here in Southeast Texas and Texas in general, we all know that during the time frame from, right there at the beginning of July, the end of June, all the way through like September into October, everything pretty much dies off. It's just too hot, guys and girls. It's just too hot out there. And, any tournaments that's going on, you see them drop from 5 fish limits to 3 fish limits. And I'm going to first talk about a way to keep your fish extremely cool, but also a little tip and trick that I like to say that will save your fish, okay? And I'm telling you, it will save your fish in the long run. The first thing I want to talk about is pool noodles. Everybody knows what a pool noodle is, right? I mean, I see y'all sitting in Facebook chat. If you don't know what a pool noodle is, I don't know what to say. Like, I guess you've been under a rock for a while, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but pool noodles are an amazing way to keep your fish cool. And everybody's wondering, how in the heck does a pool noodle keep them cool? Well, a pool noodle, what it does is, one, it adds an extra layer of protection. So that sun is beating down on your deck, okay? And with it beating down on your deck, it's just heating your lid up. Yes, most of the live well lids, if not all these days, are insulated, with a foam substance. But if you add those pool noodles on top of your water, it adds an extra layer of protection from the heat coming from the top of the deck, okay? And also what it does is another bonus feature is that it absolutely allows your fish to keep from getting beat up while you're going down the water. We all know how bad Sam Rayburn is in January, February, and March. And if you don't know, I ask you to ask anybody down here on Sam Rayburn how bad the Brandon Belt tournament was and how bad some of these the BFLs were earlier in the year. This lake turns into a savage. And when you got to make that run, those fish are bouncing up and down in your live wells, okay? And with them bouncing up and down and getting abused and used, okay, those pool noodles help keep them from coming up and hitting the deck of your live well. So and they help insulate it. Like I said, it's an extra level of just care for your fish. So, use pool noodles, guys. I mean, and I know a lot of the fishermen out there, like Michael Luce said that he sees them, or he uses them year round, I see. So it's a smart thing. The next thing I want to tell you all about, and we're going to talk about, this subject tonight, with fish care, is if you aren't using some type of ice or Gatorade bottle that is frozen to keep your fish cool, you are way behind the power curve. Okay, I thank you so much for everybody coming in and out of my chat this evening. Thank you all so much for jumping in. If you like what you're seeing, please give me a thumbs up. So what I like to do is I used to take the night before. I used to go up here to my local little ice machine and get 20 pounds of ice. Okay, I would dump 10 pounds on one side, and I would dump 10 pounds on the other side. Okay. And what I would do was I would put that in there the night before. And what it would do my insulated live wells that I had in my nitro, it would lower the temperature of that inside of the live well. And excuse me, when I would get out there for my tournament that morning, typically I don't run with my live wells full in the morning right off the bat, because we all know, it's, kind of like Top Gun. You got the need for speed, and it's like danger zone when you take off. You get that heart starts racing and you get the speed, violence, and momentum going. So, I don't fill my live wells because I like to get the little extra bit of speed going. But, excuse me, with that being said, I add that ice in there the night before. It drops the temperature of my live well. It helps my live well cool down. And then, got my cat jump around in the background, as you all can see, so my wife's going to grab her real quick. But what it does is it lowers the temperature level of your live well. And when it does that, when I get to my spot and you catch that big 10-pound kicker right off the bat in the morning, which everybody loves to do, I go ahead and I start filling my live wells up. And when I fill my live wells up, go ahead and fill both sides up. And when I fill my live wells up, that is the last water I put in there all day. I don't add any more water for the rest of the day. Why? Because that ice that is now melted and cooled down my cooler, or my live well, the water I add in there to it, it basically cools that hot lake water off, and it keeps the fish stable and cool all day long. Okay, so I add ice in there. One thing I changed what I was doing And I talked to a great buddy of mine that fishes just as much as I do. He said, man, stop using regular ice in there. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, when you add that ice in there, all that chlorine that is in the ice changes your pH levels in your live well. And if you're truly trying to keep fish alive during these hot summer months, chlorine levels, are not a good thing to have in your live well. So you add wonderful things like this right here. I'll show you all on Facebook because I've got a double stream going on Facebook and YouTube. G-Juice. So as you can see on YouTube, I got G-Juice right here in my hand. Okay. And here's the other version. There's a bunch of fish care products out there. This is, Release Live. It's Release 'em. Okay. Fish Alive. And I'm going to talk about the benefits of both and why I use one over the other now. So G-Juice, everybody knows G-Juice is pretty much the go-to in the industry these days. And G-Juice is non-toxic. It takes out chlorine levels. It takes out all kinds of stuff. So if you're using ice, it's okay. It's no big deal. It helps balance that pH level. Okay. So with it balancing the pH levels, it helps the fish, also calm down or relieve stress. It helps the fish, settle down, if you will. Okay. Because, if somebody caught me and put me in a box and it was dark and I was floating around all day long, I'd be pretty stressed out too. So, with that being said, I use G-Juice in all my live wells. And what's, really good about G-Juice is this bottle goes a long ways. Basically, I put 2 capfuls in here. I squeeze one and then dump it, another one and dump it. And I do that in each live well. Don't try to overdo it because let's just be honest. You don't want to dump a whole bottle in there and overdo it. Plus, this stuff's not cheap. So I use G-Juice pretty much exclusively now to keep my fish, hydrated and, that slime coat. I say hydrated, and that's, they're laying in water, but I keep them calm. I keep them stress-free. And G-Juice mixes so much better than this granulated stuff, okay? Now, I'm not knocking this product. There's a very specific thing that I use this product for over G-Juice, okay? So, this right here, this is a granulated form. You all can all see right here on Facebook. You guys can see right here on YouTube. It's green, it's granulated, and it has a tendency, it's got a unique smell to it. As soon as I open this up, I take flashbacks to fishing tournaments because I smell it. But what this stuff has a tendency not to do is it has a tendency not to dissolve in your live wells very well. It has a tendency to get caught in the very bottom, and if you got oxygenators inside your live well, it is safe to use with the oxygenators, but you better spray them out afterwards, okay? And you guys better wash out your live wells, and if you don't wash out your live wells after every tournament use, you're doing the wrong thing, okay? It's going to get nasty in there, and then your fish are going to get sick, and they're going to die on you. So this release me stuff, the Fish Alive stuff, it does a good job. It does a good job as G-Juice, but I prefer G-Juice over the Fish Alive because it just dissolves better and it's easier to clean out of my live well. Okay. Now, what I would like to say is that the unique thing about this Release Me stuff is we all have hooked fish deep. We all have hooked fish that is bleeding really, really bad, right? What I like to do is I like to take this stuff and I keep it in my boat to help stop the bleeding from fish, okay? And what I do is most of the time the fish's mouth are wet enough and they're, it's, you have enough moisture to make a paste out of this. But what I do is I take a little bit of this powder in my finger and I kind of roll it together, right, with the moisture that I have in my hands, and I kind of get from the water, and I make a paste. And then I go to my fish, and if you hook one in the tongue or you hook them in the gill, you wipe this paste on there, and you wipe it on their tongue, it will stop the bleeding. It will stop the bleeding, I promise you. And I had a fellow veteran with me on the last BFL that I had fished, and he hooked one over 5 pounds in this little area that I was fishing, but he hooked her in the tongue, and she was bleeding bad. And he just put her in my live well, and here, I'm going to mute something on my phone real quick, so bear with me. There we go. He put it in the live well, and I went back there to check the fish, and the fish was absolutely just bleeding like crazy. And I told my co-angler, I said, man, you're gonna have to do something about that fish or you're gonna lose her. And it was during the spawn. I was like, I don't want to lose your fish. I don't lose your fish. And I said, did you bring any G juice or did you bring any fish alive with you? And he's like, no, sir, I did not. So I got in my boat real quick. I quit fishing. And hey, Hedrick, what's up, man, on YouTube? Hey, Rachel, what's up? Hey, tell Michael I hope he's doing good. Marsha just told me y'all jumped in the chat. I hope Michael's doing good. Give him my best. With this stuff, back to what I was saying. If you go and you go back in there and you take your fish and you put the paste on there, okay? And that paste is going to help your fish stop bleeding. And you just put it on there, and I'm telling you, it'll stop it bleeding instantly. So when I'm getting off subject here a little bit. I'm sorry because I'm going back and forth on YouTube and stuff. I pulled his fish out. I made this paste. I put that on the fish's tongue, and it stopped bleeding instantly. And it saved his fish at the end of the day. And it actually helped him get the money because had he lost that fish, he wouldn't have gotten the money. I don't want to pat in the back or nothing, but I'm just telling y'all, this stuff can stop bleeding real quick. G-Juice can too. One time I couldn't get out my paste fast enough and I had a fish that I hooked in the gills that was 7 pound plus and she was bleeding bad and I wasn't fishing a tournament. I hurry up and rip this stuff out of my boat real quick, open up the cap and just I just smoked her on the gills with a G-Juice, and G-Juice will stop it too. But the problem is you'll waste a lot more of this than making a paste. Okay. So if you got to do it hot and heavy in a hurry, go with G-Juice. If you got a second and you can patch it up, use Fish Alive. Okay. So that's a major tip for people who don't know. It will help your fish out tremendously. So we talked about the ice and you putting the chlorine levels in there. Everybody drinks Gatorade or Powerade or whatever. A unique tip that a guy showed me a while back, instead of getting all that chlorine inside of your live wells, what I like to do is, and what I started doing is, I would save my bigger Gatorade bottles and Powerade bottles, and I would freeze them. And I would get, I'd bring 4. I would put 1 on each side of the live well, and I'd have 2 in reserve in my ice chest for the day. And then what I would do is that morning when I'm out there and I fill my live wells up, I drop those Gatorade bottles in there, and it doesn't release all the chlorine into the live well. The plastic bottle cools the water, and I can add to it later on. I can get another one out of my ice chest, throw it in there, and you can keep using those Gatorade bottles over and over. Okay. So, with that being said, just understand that, taking care of your fish is extremely important. There we go. I felt my banner moving on the back. So it was on the back of my chair. So take care of your fish while you're out there. So all those tips that I just covered for y'all, if you got questions, start dropping them in Facebook right now, and I'll take any questions you got on your fish care. I guarantee you right now, I'm going to get a question about fizzing fish. I guarantee you I'm going to get a question about fizzing fish. Thank you all so much for everybody jumping in on Facebook right now. Michael, Melissa Justice. Melissa Justice is like one of my top fans. She shares just anything I put out. And I thank you so much for that. Yes, I do pay attention to all my followers on Facebook. I'm not like a major YouTube streamer. I'm a small streamer, so I'm very social with all the people that follow me, and I'm very grateful. So, right now everybody's wondering, like, how do you fizz fish? I'm going to tell you right now, Daddy don't fizz the fish. Do you know why? I about killed a big fish trying to fizz her one time, and I freaked out. I went to go do it on the side, and I just stopped because I didn't feel comfortable. I even watched a YouTube video while I was on the water, and ultimately I went down the center of the throat right there where the two pinchers come together where they show, and I fizzed her, and it was okay. And it was one of those deals I'll never do it again. I'm not confident about doing it. I'm not comfortable because if the fish flips the wrong way, and you stick her wrong, it could go bad. So I learned my lesson with that. So what do I use now? Well, I have these things called fish clips, and they're little weighted things that go on their pectoral fins and on their dorsal fins, because everybody knows Chad fishes offshore and I fish pretty deep, and I do pretty well fishing deep most year round. But the problem is when you catch fish 20 plus foot deep and you put her in the live well and you flip the live well open and she's floating on her side like this, it's not good. Okay, it's not good at all. Nobody wants to see a fish floating on its side. So I get those fish clips. I put one on each of their pectoral fins up front, and I put one on that back, pectoral fin that's like this. Okay, so when you put them in your live well, it keeps them upright and it keeps them breathing. It helps them stay alive. And what'll happen is you'll find out that those fish will basically they'll adjust their own air bladders in your live well. Okay, so at the end of the day, when you come into weigh in the tournaments, your fish are okay, when they put them into the tank. Now, what I will tell you is always, for everybody on Facebook and on YouTube right now, always tell the tournament director or wherever you release your fish to, okay, these fish need to be fizzed. If you fish the BFLs, they don't have a release boat, and they go out there and, they just basically, they have a tub on the dock, and then they dump the fish back in the lake, and that's where they go, okay? But go down there and tell the guy, hey, man, this fish right here, she needs to be fizzed. I put fish clips on her, but could you please fizz her, okay? What I'll tell you is don't fizz the fish if you're not comfortable. Just like me, I won't fizz them. I put those fish clips on them, and it keeps them upright, okay? So, I look over here on, B Money 117 asked, I was just about to ask about the fizzing thing. So I answered that question. I knew that was going to be a question. Michael Obney over here on YouTube, which if you guys don't know, Michael on the YouTube side over there, he is a fellow veteran, and he also has a spinnerbait company he's been working on. And I've been testing some of his product, and I'm going to tell you all right now, when he goes out with it, this spinnerbait's amazing. So just for everybody on Facebook and YouTube, if you go back to my May video when I was on catching a bunch of fish in the shad, you'll see me talk about that spinnerbait and why I think it sets apart from the rest. So he talked about on the YouTube side, Facebook, the question was, like the ice idea for the live wells, especially during the summer here in Yuma when water temps reach the 90s. So he's over there in Yuma, Arizona, everybody. And if y'all never experienced dry heat towards the El Paso area or towards the Arizona area, it's savage. And I just seen an old dear friend of mine, Dominic Lamont, jump in my Facebook chat, and we deployed together. And I'm trying not to tear up right now because it brings back a bunch of wonderful memories. So, speaking of that, woo, man. Dominic, Marcia says hello, by the way. So, fish care is extremely important, and taking care of your fish is no doubt extremely important. And another thing, I'm going to go over here to the Facebook side. I seen where, let's see, what was the question from that KJ said, honey? Okay, here, I got it pulled up. I ran my airlines in my, or he said I ran airlines through the extra live well, ice water in that live well, and cool air running through other. It does work. Okay, it does work. And I'm going to tell you all, I see Danny Cross, which is a wonderful sponsor of mine with Cross Baits, as you can see right here. And you guys see me using in all of my videos. Danny's, like I said, you guys got a big shout out about Cross Baits, so please go check him out. Danny says on here, and I've seen Danny's boat. He's got a Champion back before oxygenators were a thing. Danny runs a pure oxygen system. He never loses any fish. Small investment, but worth every penny. And what he's talking about is you guys can go to any local store, PetSmart, and get the fish bubblers for a tank, for a fish tank. And Danny's got his wired up in his boat that basically he's got it powered, and he kicks that bad boy on, and he's got the tube in there just like you see in a fish aquarium, and it bubbles. Okay, I like to say it's the poor man way of an oxygenator, and it's an absolute fabulous system. I see over here on Facebook, Melissa Justice says, as a fellow veteran, got to support veteran-owned, operated businesses. Well, thank you so much for your service, Melissa. Dominic, what's up, brother? Man, I'm glad to see you in the chat, and appreciate all the love, man. Michael says that they are only, let's see, what's that say? I'm trying to read it. They're the only Texas Parks and Wildlife approved fizzing tool. Oh, the Tackle Warehouse one. So my wife says you're talking about the Tackle Warehouse fizzing one. I see $7 to $8, Michael. Great point. I'm just going to be honest, man. I'm not real comfortable with fizzing my fish, so I put the fish clips on them. But if you are, if I got any of the old 18 Pro Staff guys in here that are super comfortable with fizzing fish, that's a video that we need to get you on here and do. And, really sit down and have somebody show the really fizz route. I can show you how to use the fish clips and why, like I said, why I prefer them over everything else, but I just go with that route. Danny says in Facebook chat, Rambo Outdoors has oxygen systems. Okay. We all know if you fish how oxygen's made into your water. Okay. There's little holes, little vents, usually on the top of everybody's cap on their boat that goes around the back of the boat, and it draws air in. And what it does is every boat manufacturer has a different way they do it. And I know on my Nitro, I had little vent caps in the very back. And when you kick your recirculate on, it draws air in through a tube. Okay. And that tube comes in, and your recirculate pump that pumps water back into your live well, it infuses, the oxygen with that water, and it pumps it back in the live well, and it just sits there and recirculates. Okay. So in my Nitro, I had oxygenators. Okay. And oxygenators are a little system. It's basically a circular little disc that's in there. And what it does is it makes its own oxygen. It fizzes in there and creates bubbles and oxygenates your water. Okay. Now, when I bought my new Phoenix here recently, which I am super excited. I am like a kid in a candy store at Christmas, man. I am so excited right now because I'm on the final countdown for my boat being finished. August 8th is the official date. So I'm just tickled and like just, chomping at the bit to get out there and go fishing. But I didn't go back with oxygenators. And the reason why is because I don't think that, I think that as long as you take care of your fish with ice and you take care of them with these wonderful products we talked about, and I'm not sponsored by any of these dudes. Okay. I pay, what is it? What's G Juice up to now, guys? Like $8 or $9 a bottle or something like that. This Fish Alive, when I bought it, was $13.99 a bottle. So I pay full price for them. If you use all these wonderful products in your live well, your fish will be okay. Okay. Your fish are going to be okay, and you're going to take care of them. And you don't have to have oxygenators. You just need to be smart. Okay. And monitor your fish through the day. Don't throw them in there and just go on about business. Go back there and check them out. Okay. Because they make you money. They make all these other guys out there money. And, man, Texas Parks and Wildlife does it right down here. I'm from Missouri originally. Okay. A 6-pounder is a big fish up there. A 6-pounder down here is a joke. You can go out and catch one of those every day. And I learned real quick that 15, 14 pounds in Missouri they would get you in the top 4. 15, 13, 15 pounds down here, not going to get you much. You got to have 16 and up, my friends. So I learned that real quick in Texas. I guess it's the whole theme of, everything's bigger in Texas. So let me take a quick drink here. With that being said, we've covered Fish Alive. We've covered ice. We've covered Gatorade bottles. We covered how to take care of your fish when they're bleeding. Okay. I see a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go on my Facebook side here. The more and smaller bubbles. Okay. I see, KJ talking about my system is $50 from Academy. See, guys that want to take care of their fish. They find ways to do it. I've got another, pro staff guy named Austin Lowe. He's got the same setup like Danny's got in his boat. And I fished a tournament with him a while back, and it does wonders. It does a great job. So those little fish bubblers do a great job. Thank you so much for everybody coming to the chat. If you like what you're hearing and you like what you're seeing, I may not be absolutely beautiful like my wife, but I still try to stay beautiful. Give me a thumbs up if you all like it. On my YouTube side, thank you all so much for the questions coming in. If anybody's got a question about fish care before I go on to the next subject we're going to cover, ask away. I'll give everybody a second. Thank you so much for the thumbs up smashing over there. And guys, I'm going to touch on something while I'm waiting for questions to come in. Hey, check it out. Analytics is a really important thing of what I do as a content creator. And I am so humbled and honored to see 14, 15 viewers average on my Facebook page, and I've been averaging 8, 9, 10 viewers over here on my YouTube side. So I'm very humbled, and I appreciate each and every one of my viewers and followers out there on the Facebook and YouTube side. If y'all don't think smashing like on a video or on the YouTube side, smashing subscribe on my YouTube videos, if you don't think it goes a long ways, it goes a tremendous amount of ways. A whopping 88% of my viewers that I have on YouTube are not subscribed. And that's tough as a content creator because how I get affiliated with YouTube and try to move up in the world as a small content creator is when you guys hit like and subscribe. And I'm not going to hold anybody's head down under the water to do it, but if y'all could, when you do watch my YouTube videos, it takes 2 seconds to hit subscribe and like, because I'm telling you, it goes a long ways for me. And I thank you all so much, and thank you so much to all my followers on Facebook. So let's see, we get any questions here. Mention the tip difference of how close it should be. Okay, so that is a great question that KJ brought into the Facebook side. So to give you the answer of how I go about doing the tip difference, and you guys are going to laugh, okay, it has to be, this is what I do. All right, I take my hand and I go in my live well like this, and if I go, oh man, it's too cold, right? If I jump it out, it's too cold. I have shocked fish doing that, not paying attention to what I was doing. The best way I can tell you is you want the water to be, you want it, like, here's the best way I can describe it to anybody. Turn your faucet on to where it's just nice and cool to the touch. And a great example of this is if anybody's had a baby out there, you want the water to be, not super hot, not super cold. It's got to be just right. Just like the Three Little Bears thing, right? The fish have to have water just right. If it's too cold, you're going to shock your fish. They're going to freak out and they're going to float up. If it's too hot, they're going to die. So I literally put my hand in the water, and if it's cool to the touch, if it's like legit, like I'm not talking about ice cold, okay? I'm talking about cool to the touch. That's what I go by. Because if it's 90 degrees outside, or okay, it's not even 90 degrees outside. It's like 100 degrees without the heat index down here right now. So if it is 100 degrees outside, having your water at like 50 degrees is a no-no, okay? So, KJ, the answer to your question is I put my hand in the water. And if I think it's way too cold for the air temperature that day, then I might shoot some water in there. But I literally put my hand in the water, and I feel it with my own hands. And it's got to be cool to me and comfortable. And typically, if I had to put a thermometer in my boat, which I've never done, and I might do that as an experiment now. I might go out there when the Phoenix comes in and just kind of dunk a thing in the water and just see how cold it is and how warm it is. I would say you definitely want your water temperature to be, I would say, in the 70s. I mean, that would be my guess. But I tell you what, I'm very intrigued on what that water temperature difference is, but I just go cool to touch. So thank you so much for that question. On my YouTube side, I got a question over here. Michael says, thoughts on adding hydrogen peroxide to live well water. I've heard that trick. I have heard the trick on, adding Mountain Dew to the thing to create oxygen. I've heard all that. I don't add hydrogen peroxide. I know it's safe to use, but hydrogen peroxide, for anybody that doesn't know, on any side of my Facebook or YouTube side over here, it does create oxygen. But what I use hydrogen peroxide off for the most is after I've had a tournament and, like specifically during the shad spawn, okay? They just get in there and poop all over your live well. That brown clay looking stuff is from the shad they're eating. I will use hydrogen peroxide, a 50-50 mix, and I will put half a bottle on one side, half a bottle on the other side, and I will fill my live wells up to the brim, and I'll turn on my oxygenators and things of that nature, and I will let it just sit there and recirculate for like an hour. And then after that, I drain it, put some fresh water in there from the hose, and I just recirculate and pump it all out. So that's what I use hydrogen peroxide for, Michael. I don't really I don't add it to my live wells to create oxygen. I literally use G-Juice, which if you read on the back of it, it talks about relieving stress, replaces the slime coating. It adds essential electrolytes in there. Half an ounce of G-Juice treats 30 gallons of water. I like it to look a little bit blue, so, I just kind of Thank you so much for jumping in the Facebook right now. We're up to 16 live viewers, and that's awesome. I thank you all so much. Danny Cross on the Facebook side says, cheap tool to check water temperature is a floating pool thermometer. There you go, guys. See, that's what I love about this fishing industry. Guys and gals out there sharing information, throwing a cheap pool thermometer in there does wonders. So, welcome to everybody coming in the chat. Welcome, Cody Ellis. Welcome, Dustin Morris. I hope everybody's having a great evening. I'm trying to make you guys have a great evening if you're not having one. And, thank you so much for jumping in tonight. So, I hope Monica is doing well too, because I seen my old 18 partner in crime that helps me do a lot of stuff with Rick. Thank you so much for jumping in. Robin Pig, I hope you were doing great in Missouri. It's been a long time since I've seen your wonderful face, so thank you so much for jumping in. So we've talked about fish care. We've talked about how to take care of your fish. We've talked about what to do, what not to do, and some things, some tips and tricks to help them keep from bleeding, okay? Guys, I want to go over to summertime baits. Okay, we as anglers all reach out to each other and collaborate, and we ask, hey, what's going on? Clayton, you're hilarious. Cane poles make for good fishing. Clayton, you never fail to crack me up. And I seen a picture of you that looked like you were bald recently, so I guess the kids and wife finally did it to you, didn't they? They made you lose your hair. Anyways, on to the next topic is summertime baits. Like I said, all of us anglers out there like to reach out to each other and get information like what's working, what's not working. And that's the wonderful thing about creating a great network of anglers. And it is to, not only get information, but to help you go out and catch fish, which is the whole reason why I started my Facebook page and I started this YouTube page, is to go out and help you guys become better anglers. Okay, that's literally what I do, and I don't hold back. I tell you all the truth. There's a few things I hold back, like key baits that I'm catching fish all the time, but you can't hold that against me when I'm fishing tournaments. Right now, the number one thing that I would be doing, there's two things. It's twofold. Okay, summertime baits. There's one bait that I really like to throw, and I made a YouTube short of it the other day, and you know how YouTube shorts go, and it was actually a TikTok. You either hit their algorithm and you ride that wave out, or you bomb out. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe crap. So, and I was hoping it would go viral because one summertime bait that I love to throw, and everybody's thinking, oh, Chad's going to say like a Texas rig and brush piles. It isn't brush piles. It is fun. But you know what my favorite thing to go to, deep water wise, is a shaky head. I'm serious. Anglers across the nation throw Texas rigs. I love a Texas rig. It's versatile. I can flip it. I can skip it. I can do all kinds of wonderful things with it, right? But every fish sees it. It's all over the place. So I use a shaky head. And typically the one I like to throw is the Strike King Magnum shaky head. And it's got a 7/0 hook on it, which is, yes, a big hook. But I rig my shaky heads with a crossbait Wormzilla. And y'all have seen me throw it. It's no secret. I catch a lot of big fish on it. I'm actually slightly jealous a while back because one of the gentlemen tagged, me in a post and Danny in a post. He caught a double digit on a Wormzilla. And I have fished the Wormzilla up and down Sam Rayburn all over, putting that thing in places it should have never been. And I still don't have a double digit fish. So, hats off to that guy. But I throw a Wormzilla on a shaky head this time of year. Why? A shaky head does two things. Well, it does a lot of things, but two key elements. One, I can power fish that shaky head. Okay. I can drag it along like a Texas rig. I can hop it. I can pop it. I can work it. I can make it dance for that girl to bite down there. Okay. The other thing that I really like about the shaky head is I can finesse fish it. And with the crossbaits Wormzilla, what's so unique that Danny absolutely really changed the game with a trick worm is, and I say trick worm, it's just a finesse worm, really, the terminology of it, is that plastic is designed different. It's designed to float. Whenever I come on with cross baits, and I was smoking fish on trick worms. And when I got on with cross baits, man, Danny jumped up and we started talking about stuff, and he created the Wormzilla. And I went out there and I put that Wormzilla to work. I caught some of my biggest fish off the spawn on a Wormzilla. My dad had a giant this year, on Wormzillas. So what's unique about the shaky head is, I'm going to get to my point. Okay. That thing is rigged. And everybody, and the YouTube short I did, I encourage y'all to go over to my YouTube page and go into my shorts section, and you're going to see that short and what I talked about. I encourage y'all go check that out. But a shaky head is rigged to where, it actually, will you go back there and get my pole with the shaky head on it, please? You'll see it over on the back left-hand side. I'm going to get my wife to get it for me, my wonderful helper, because this is really important. I sell this point, okay? For everybody watching on Facebook, you're gonna love this tip. But anyways, a shaky head is designed to stand up, okay? When you hop it and it hits the ground, you want that bait to stand up. And when you have a wormzilla on the end of it, okay, that whole plastic standing up like this, and guess what? That thing's doing this in the water. So when I'm trying to be more finesse with it in the brush piles, where all of you anglers are going out there and flipping Texas rigs in there, and they've seen about 4 million Texas rigs fling down on them, I cast that shaky head in there. I let it sink all the way through the brush pile, and I kind of shake it a little bit and make sure that I get that head on the bottom, and I let it sit there for a good 5 to 10 seconds and soak. I'm not kidding. Because the number one thing that everybody sees during the summer is they fish so fast. They're in and out, and there's a time and place for that. And I'm going to get to it in a second. And what I do is I cast this thing in there in brush piles, okay? And I let it sit, and it stands straight up in the brush pile. And that wormzilla on the back is just shaking. No, baby, that is a crankbait. This is going to be a long, red-looking worm. So for everybody that doesn't know, I hope everybody got a kick out of that. My wife brings in my pole in here, one of my ballistic rods for cranking, and it's got a giant 10XD on it. So that was awesome. So that shaky head sits in that brush pile, and it sits there and it's moving back and forth. And everybody fishes so fast. A bunch of you guys are guilty of this. You flip it out there, it hits the pile, and you rip it out before the fish can even get a chance to get it. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But slow down. Big fish are lazy. Okay. Big fish are lazy. Big fish don't like to work for food. If you think I'm wrong, I'm telling y'all, big fish don't really work that hard for food. They don't get that big for no reason, okay? So, shaky head. I cast it out there. I drag it. I can hop it. I can pop it to get a reaction bite. But a lot of times, man, with that shaky head, I flip it out there and I let it sit. And when it rises up, those fish hammer down on it, okay? The next thing I like to throw, which is what she just brought in here, it's a 10XD and 8XD, 6XD. I say that. It's a crankbait. It's a plug, okay? It's a big crankbait. Why do I like throwing crankbaits for the summertime? Well, first I want to touch on, yes, that is it. So here, she brought it in here finally. So here, hold that rod. All right, pull it off. It's so cool using rod socks because I feel like I'm pulling Excalibur out every time that I pull this old 18 rod out. All right, so let's pull it out. I probably shouldn't even be showing you this, but I'm just going to leave it as a wormzilla. But anyways, this is a shaky head, okay? This is what it looks like. I'm showing YouTube right now so you can see. Check it out, Facebook. This is a shaky head. This is actually a football style shaky head. This has got a 7/0 hook on it. This one's got a football one on it because when last time I went out with Rick kept putting me on there around stumps and things of that nature, and I kept losing it. So this is what we call, Danny went ahead and said it in my chat, this is called a skinny zilla. You can't get them yet. Okay, we've been working on it, and when I told y'all cross baits is always ahead in innovation for baits, this is a skinny zilla. See right here on Facebook? This will be coming out probably later in August, okay? So it's coming out soon, Danny says, and we've been working and testing it. I'm telling you all, this fish, if you've seen it on Fishing with Rick's page or you've seen me put stuff up about catching fish lately when I've been blessed to go out with people, this is what I've been catching my fish on. And it's just a skinnier, longer trick worm, okay? So testing ain't pleasing, Danny. Yeah, well, you got to test baits and make sure that they're worth their while, because if you put out a product that sucks, it could be detrimental. So that's why we go through the hard-earned stuff, and we really put these baits to the test. And if you guys don't think that Danny doesn't get a lot of feedback on a lot of like, hey, this sucks and that sucks, and like we should do this and that, trust me, he does, okay? Because he's the first one that hears it. So this is the Skinny Zilla. And this is a football style shaky head. There are several shaky heads out there. There's spot removers, which is flat on the tip. There are Magnum, basically shaky heads, which is the Strike King version I use. And it's got a different offset on the hook that I really like. And Cross Baits has been working on some unique stuff in that area too, is all I'm going to say about that. But the shaky head, this is how you rig it. This is a screw lock right here. I'm going to set my rod down, and I'm going to actually take it off. Okay. What's cool about a shaky head is that it's got this screw lock on here, YouTube and my Facebook. You can unscrew it instead of rigging it like a, Texas style worm. Okay. And it helps the bait from getting torn up. Okay. Because if you rig it in here through the hook and you pop it out, you're putting way more holes in here, etc. Okay. Danny says Zilla heads are in the works, and we Well, Danny has been. I'm not going to take credit. I ain't got my hands on it yet because he told me I got to be a good boy to get some of those. So I've been working really hard for Danny, and I'm just hoping to get my hands on those to test them. So a screw lock, okay? You literally stick it on here like this, everybody, and you literally just screw the head of your worm or whatever you want to throw on there right onto the bait, okay? And I hope this goes viral. I hope everybody shares this and gets 500,000 views. I seen a guy on YouTube that talked about how to rig a Texas rig, and he got 500,000 views. I told my wife, I'm like, Jesus, man. Anyways, the struggles are real. Anyway, screw lock, put it on there. What I like to do is I like to get just a little bit of bite on here, and I like to just see how I squinched it up a little bit. See that, YouTube? And I go like this, and what I do is I like to feel my finger, and I push down on it so I can barely feel the point of my hook, okay? And you want this bait to be straight up and down because you don't want a big old giant humpback from Notre Dame movie like Disney had, okay? And you don't want it looking like a humpback whale because it looks unnatural in the water. And you're like, man, what does this thing look like in the water? Well, I don't know, man. Like, all I know is the fish eat the crap out of trick worms, and they've been doing that for a long time. Ribbon-tail worms. Honest to God, I don't know what the fish think this is under the water. All I know is that this is a big meal. But a shaky head is the way to go during the summertime. So, I showed you all how to rig it. I'm going to give Vanna White right here my rod after I put my deal back on here. And for anybody that's wondering what I'm throwing this on right now, I'm throwing this on an Old 18 Suppressor Series rod. This one right here is my go-to. This one is the medium heavy in the Suppressor Series. It's a North Fork blank. And if you use Marler C, M-A-R-L-E-R, the letter C, it'll save you 20% off. Any other time that we don't have a sale going on, like right now, you can get 25% off. So I encourage you all to go check out the rod. I've got it on this rod. I pair it with an Abu Garcia reel. This is a 6-3. I typically like throwing a 7-1 or higher so I can catch up with those fish. But that's what I really like to use. Cranking, okay? I do throw 10XDs. I throw 8XDs and I throw 6XDs, okay? And I want to encourage you all to go out and start throwing crankbaits, okay? If you don't have electronics, I understand. If you do have electronics, you get out there, idle around, find some fish, and throw a crankbait on fish. Because why? The first thing when I pull up to a spot, I whip crankbaits, specifically even during the summer, even during the winter months, February, January. Those fish are focusing on gizzard shad. When you're throwing a big crank, that's what it looks like, is a big gizzard shad. During the summer, I like to throw a big XD out there, or a 6XD, okay? And if you don't have electronics, I got a wonderful breakdown on my YouTube. It talks about how to go out and locate bass offshore with electronics, without electronics, KJ, and how to use an old school map. Gary Moore says on YouTube side, I use the spot remover hook. I agree. That's what my daddy uses, the spot removers, and he loves them, and they are a tried and true way. Thanks for the comment on YouTube side, Gary. So what I really truly like to do is a crankbait will help me locate fish fast, and it will also send them into a feeding frenzy during the summer. Now, during the winter when I'm out there cranking, okay, they are actually wintertime forage. We've covered a lot of this on the Rick and Chad live that we do the second Tuesday of every month. They're eating big gizzard shad. They eat big gizzard shad out there, and that's what they're focusing on, okay? And a lot of people shy away from cranking because when they go to crank, they have an issue with getting the crankbait out there, or like, I'm not getting deep enough. Well, first of all, first and foremost, the most important thing out there, guys, girls, men, women, is having the right setup. If you don't have the right rod and the right reel, you might as well just don't even worry about it, okay? So for 10XDs, everybody knows what an XD is. It's Strike King's big crankbait. It's like the godfather of cranking, Kevin Van Dam. And even before him, like Rick Clunn and some of those guys, man. A 10XD has to be on a proper rod. And what I like to use is, I like to use a composite rod. And I'm going to give you, and for everybody on Facebook and YouTube right now, you're going to get some really useful information that you don't hear a lot of people talk about. I love a composite rod. Why? A composite rod is made up of glass and carbon fiber. And for y'all that don't know that, glass is an amazing part of rods. It gives you the flexibility to keep those big fish hooked up when they come up to shake those big heavy crankbaits. It has plenty of flex to keep that hook pinned. Because if you get too stiff of a rod, you're gonna rip the hook out of their mouth. And trust me, I've been there and I've cried. Okay, I've sat down and cried like a little baby in my boat when I've lost a big fish cranking. Okay, so the glass allows it for the flexibility to stay hooked up. It also allows for castability. Whipping that crankbait out there and getting a long cast is absolutely probably the one of the most important things about crankbait fishing. You got to have a long cast. If you make a short cast, let's just say 10 or 15 feet, that bait is not getting to the maximum depth where you need it to be and staying in the strike zone for as long as you need it to be. Okay? So you need to do that. Long cast. Okay? And with a long cast, next comes back to my setup. I like a carbon fiber mixed rod. Like I said, a composite rod. Carbon fiber gives me the feedback on what I'm hitting back there. So when I'm cranking and I crash into that brush pile, I can feel it, or I change from like mud to rock. I can feel it. Okay? And I know what I got going on down there. Okay? So I love a composite rod. And Old 18's Ballistic lineup series, their cranking series, is a great rod for the price. We all know cranking rods are extremely expensive. And for my 10XD rods, I use a 7'10" heavy rod. And it's got a moderate action on it because the moderate action helps it load up and I whip it out there, okay? So I use a 7'10" for my 10XDs. A heavy, okay? And I use a 7'8" medium heavy for my 8XDs and 6XDs, okay? And as you can see, I'm going down, and each one will tell you, what it's rated for. And what I mean by that is 1/2 ounce all the way up to 2 ounces, or 1/4 ounce all the way up to 1 ounce, etc. Okay, so you need to make sure that whatever weight bait you're throwing matches with that rod. And then for my square bills and things of that nature, I love to throw the Ballistic 7-foot medium. Okay. And I use a 7-foot because I'm only 5'11". So, typically you want a very long rod. Everybody was hearing me say 7'10", 7'8", and they're like, golly, dude. Well, when I got a long handled rod, I get a lot of force behind it. And when I'm whipping it, it loads up and goes. Okay. So a long rod helps you make longer casts. Now for the square bills, I'm focusing on a lot more specific targets, laydowns, brush in the water, rocks, transitions, docks, and everything like that. So cranking is a great way to not only locate fish quickly, but it's also a great way to get the school fired up during the summer and smash potentially your biggest bass of the season. Trust me, there is nothing more satisfying than catching a giant fish on a crankbait. Okay. I think my biggest today is right at 8 pounds on a crankbait. Unfortunately, we've all been there. I've lost some big ones. So yeah, it sucks. So cranking. I love cranking. And a big shout out to an additional thing that I started throwing recently, and it was actually my Bass Champs partner, Hank Harrison. I see him do it a lot, and sometimes I'm like, dude, I don't understand how that big fish ate that little bitty bait, but it's a drop shot. Before I leave any brush pile or spot, I will whip a drop shot out there. I kid you not. And if anybody that knows me, you know I power fish, and I don't do dinky drop shot. But how I rig it is I like to put it on a bait caster with a medium heavy pole. And I love to rig it just like a regular drop shot. I tie a polymer knot on my hook, and I leave a really long tag in, anywhere from like 8 to 10 inches, depending on your depth that you want your bait to be offset. Okay. And what you want to do is you want to go back through that eye after you tie your polymer knot and go back through it to where to pull the bait down. And I'll do a video on that separately for later, but I will always throw in a drop shot. Over on the YouTube side, for everybody that's on Facebook, I thank so much for everybody coming in on Facebook and YouTube this evening. I love you all. Long time. Your support goes a long ways. Michael says, water here is not as deep. Cranking docks also produces fish. Yeah, exactly. So what I would do is, like you talk about docks, where I grew up in the neck of the woods in Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks. It's a deep lake, but you're not going to get out there and crank in 40 foot of water. Okay, so that's tough. So what we do, Michael, in Lake of the Ozarks area, Missouri, is we target docks. And what do? I get that 7-foot rod, Ballistic series from Old 18. And when I was up there 2 years ago with my dad, man, I was going right down the edge of the docks, and I was flipping square bills up there, and I was burning them back right down the side of the docks. Okay. Michael Luce on the Facebook side says your first double digit on a crank will make your heart stop. That is a fact. And I'm gonna tell you what will make your heart stop is when you're cranking and your crankbait just stops and you're like, what is this? Am I hung up? And all of a sudden it just starts, your line starts going like this. And you're like, oh mama. Okay. And then after that, I don't want to see her come up. I just want her to stay down. So tonight, guys, this was my first Average Fisherman stream, and man, I'm so grateful and just humbled about all the viewers I had on my YouTube side and on my Facebook side. So I thank you all so much for giving me the love and support that you give me. And for anybody that's out there listening and that sees this video later, I want to just touch on one last subject before I sign off tonight, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. In the world of fishing, I have amazing sponsors that help me out. My goal is to get to the Toyota Series. I have to raise a certain amount of money to be able to fish the Toyota Series. I have a family, I work every day, and I'm not over here pleading for money, okay? If you guys know any businesses out there, small businesses, big businesses, and companies that I can earn their sponsorship, and I say earn because I'm a man of morals and values, and what you see me doing right now is how I help companies out. I advertise and market companies, as you all heard me talk about tonight. And if you guys know anybody out there that would be willing to jump on and become part of my Average Fisherman family with my sponsors and my followers, please drop my name. Tell them to hit me up on Facebook and message me, and I would love to bring them aboard because I'm on the hot and heavy look right now for new sponsors to help support me next year on my fishing endeavors. Right now, I've been asked some questions lately before I sign off here. What am I fishing next year? I haven't decided yet. I know that most likely for sure the number one thing that I'm going to fish next year is I will be taking part in the ABA Top 150 solos as long as I can get the you have to, on those bigger tournaments for everybody like the Toyota Series and ABA Top 150 solos, you have to sign up and you get placed on a waiting list. And as long as they don't fill up from anglers coming back from last year and on their new criteria, you get to fish that series. So I know right now that I will be fishing the ABA Top 150 solos, the American Bass Anglers down here in the Rayburn region, which I learned really quickly is a very tough region to compete in. You have some major sticks out there. And so I know I'm going to be fishing that. As far as the Toyotas, I got to wait and see what happens. Okay. I'm going to stay humble and keep grinding, making content for everybody out there. All my wonderful viewers. I'm going to keep making content. So we'll see what happens. I've been blessed with a lot in my life and I'm truly grateful. And, some doors close and some doors open. And some opportunities come, and we're not always understanding of that. And I try to be understanding of that. And I try to be more patient in, my later days of my life. I was a lot of high strung in my younger days. So my wife's laughing in the background. So with that being said, I thank you all right now on Facebook for jumping in and watching. If you all have any questions, please feel free to message me. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sharing my page. Thank you so much for the love that you've all been giving me. Trust me, I see it and I'm truly humbled by it. For everybody on my YouTube side that's over there and on my Facebook side, if you guys just smash subscribe on my YouTube, it goes a long ways and helps me. So I thank you all so much for everything you do on both sides for my YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for the love. And I promise you, I will keep giving you 110% and then some on all my content. And for anybody that's got any questions or if I missed your question on Facebook, I will get back and I answer those questions. The next live that I have going on is with Fishing with Rick. Fishing with Rick will be down here at the headquarters here at my house. I don't have a headquarters. I operate out of my house. So I got to take all this stuff down from streaming. My wife doesn't let me leave it up all the time. So I got to take it all down after this. So the next live I'll be is the second Tuesday of August. I will be on the second Tuesday of August with Fishing with Rick. And we got a big announcement coming up for everybody that doesn't know. We talked about it in our last live. We got a major announcement going on. We're not sure if it's going to get announced on this coming Tuesday, or not this coming Tuesday, the second Tuesday in August or not yet. I'm waiting for somebody to get back to me. But it involves, I can say this, it involves the Brandon Belt fishing. Okay? So make sure you guys keep a close eye on my fishing page, and I will let you know what that is all going to be about. It's a big announcement, and you're going to hear it here first. And you're only going to hear it here and one other place. I promise. I swear to you, this isn't some like clickbait. You're only going to hear it on the Rick and Chad live show on YouTube. And you'll hear it one other place, another podcast that goes on down here, which I don't hate on anybody, man. I give a lot of love to these guys. Everybody's out there grinding hard, all these guides and everybody out there. So thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Patrick Hubner, thank you so much for the great stuff, man. Danny, thank you so much for jumping in as one of my sponsors. Zilla Gear Outdoors, I know you're in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Michael, thank you so much for the kind words, and I appreciate you so much, guys. And without further ado, I'm going to call it a night, and I'm going to get off here. So I hope you all enjoy your evening. Facebook, you guys enjoy it, and you guys have a great evening. As always, God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. Until next time, everybody, Marler out.